Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitya Gaura Hari
Hare
Bol
Krishna.
Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai Gurudev ki jai. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the evening Bhagavad Gita class, the Sunday evening Bhagavad Gita class. Before I begin the Bhagavad Gita class, I would like to express my gratitude to His Grace Ranchor Govind Prabhu for considering me for speaking on these verses. I hope I'll be able to share whatever I heard in a proper mood, received from the in the line of the disciplic succession, whatever our paramparas and acharyas, Prabhupada and other Vartaman ISKCON acharyas are speaking. So for that, I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas. Today, the topic or the section for discussion is from sixth chapter titled Dhyana Yoga, verses 37 to 45. So these all are part of a section which basically talk about the destination of an unsuccessful transcendentalist or a unsuccessful yogi. Actually, this comes at we are going to enter into a very interesting section in Bhagavad Gita, the seventh chapter. It is said that the middle six chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are like the cream of the Bhagavad Gita. Like if it is compared to like a sandwich, in a sandwich we have a bun on top and a bun on the bottom, and the real patty, which is very tasteful, is actually in the middle. So from the mundane perspective, that is a small example analogy is given, but actually from the spiritual perspective, the Lord, whatever confidential secrets he wants to reveal through Arjuna to all of us. It will be revealed in the upcoming 6 chapters. To set the stage for those 6 chapters, the first 6 chapters have been set. So just a quick recap on how we have come here, or what was the various conversations, dialogues that Arjuna and Krishna had, that we are discussing these about the 7 verses, and what will eventually happen after these 7 verses. So we all know Bhagavad Gita starts with Arjuna being very lamentful because he has to fight his own kinsmen on the opposite side, and he decides not to fight. He rightfully places himself before his supreme friend, and considered himself as his disciple, and asks him to instruct in this time of great confusion for him, or bewilderment for him. Krishna then starts with the most important, the core foundational philosophy of Vedic knowledge, the body and the soul, the concept of the body and soul. And then actually Krishna tells Arjuna that you should now fight, because it's your duty as a Kshatriya, and as a duty you must fight using intelligence. As he gives the example of Buddhi Yoga, but later on, then because Arjuna is still in that mood to avoid the war, he kind of puts forward several questions. Oh, you first tell that uh, I need to use my intelligence, and then use my intelligence to perform activities. And then if I use my intelligence, I don't see this warfare as any intelligent person would do. So why you are engaging me? Then Krishna has to speak that whole Karma Yoga section, wherein he speaks about activities, why one should do activity as part of the various swadharmas one gets, and what happens if one doesn't do an activity, and then the activity, how the mood in which any activity or action should be done. But so the conversation goes on. So what we see in that conversation, the essence is, towards the end, Krishna, towards the 5th chapter, he talks about this concept of ability to bring oneself to a mental equilibrium. Mental equilibrium meaning working without getting affected by success or failure. So that concept kind of we see gets repeated in all of these conversations when Arjuna is trying to put forth his arguments of not to fight. Krishna keeps on saying that you must fight because it's your duty, and he brings about the aspect of working with the bondage. If one works for the bond, one works with the due consideration of success and failure, it leads to bondage, whereas one works without any attachment, that, that leads to mukti. uh, and in that context, the very core point that comes across is actually we find it in 2.48, where the first definition of yoga is given. I'll just quickly touch upon that, because it's important for us to kind of understand in this today's context. Was so it says yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyakta dhananjaya siddhi asiddhyo samabhutva samatvam yoga yuchate. Because uh, we have read so many times the word yoga, yogi in the 6th chapter. Actually, the first time the word yoga appears in Bhagavad Gita in 2.48, where Krishna gives a very concise definition of yoga. He says, perform your duty equipoised, Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. And later on in 3rd chapter also, he stresses on the fact of uh, need one should need there is a very important need to subdue or steady one's mind. So that's where the 6th chapter comes into picture. The 6th chapter is all about the practical tips. Initially, Krishna talks about the importance of mind. If one is not able to control the mind, it becomes his worst enemy. If one is able to control the mind, it becomes his best friend. So then the next 610 to 636, it's all about the Ashtanga Yoga, how one can control the mind. Because if one has to be yogi, one has to be not get influenced by various materialistic desires. One should be equipoised. So if one should practice or live up to those standards, it's not possible one has a normal materialistic mindset, right? So the consciousness of which the mind is basically the consciousness is reflection of the mind. So if the mind is not pure, then the consciousness is not pure. Essentially what Krishna is telling to Arjuna is elevate your consciousness. You are right now in the bodily consciousness, you need to come to a spiritual consciousness. So and the transformation that can happen from that can lead us from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness is when we clean the dust that is accumulated on the mind. And that's what Mahaprabhu also says, that cheto darpana marjana. So in this 10 to 36 verses, so Krishna explains the various processes of Ashtanga yoga, like one should go live, give up everything, live in seclusion, practice celibacy under strict regulations of eating and sleeping. Then he has to be silent, meditate on the super soul. So after hearing all this, Arjuna gets bewildered. His bewildered is now multi-founded, and it's also bewilderment for us, because such a person says that what you are saying is impractical for me. How can you say that I can control my mind? It's easy to control the wind rather than control the mind. So it's an important lesson for us that now we may think of that, okay, I can do yogic practices, or in general people today we see the spiritual practices of wherein they think, okay, there are so many spiritual practices where they consider meditation as the soul means to attain spiritual perfection. So it's an important lesson in the sense that it's not a deriding them or ridiculing them. It's like an intelligent person learns from the experiences of other, right? So here Arjuna is such a qualified person, and he's a man of Dwapara Yuga, and we are men of Kali Yuga. So we should understand this. So an important lesson that Krishna is trying to, and actually we see at every junction in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is like trying to it, trying to ensure that he makes only one conclusion. Everyone can take only one conclusion, that devotion is the only way, the bhakti yoga is the only way through which one can easily or for surely attain the spiritual consciousness. The whole point of all these conversations is, because that's why we see, like when I used to read Bhagavad Gita, like maybe after two, 3 verses, there seems to be an apparent conclusion, and again there is further discussion again. I was like thinking why that is happening. There seems to be an apparent conclusion that, okay, Krishna might be supreme and we should engage in bhakti yoga, and then there is further discussion. So it's like it's Krishna is sprinkling that point, and then again he's elaborating it, and again he's making that conclusion, and then again he's making that point a little bit elaborately, and finally we see the biggest conclusion towards the end. So after hearing this, Arjuna is like very confused. Now, what you say is very impractical. Then Krishna says to Arjuna, "Okay, what you said is correct." And then the previous verses which other devotees have explained was also very important, because actually there are two places, I think, maybe more than two. The two that I can immediately think of in this 6th chapter and 8th chapter, Krishna uses the word abhyasa yogena. So it's not like Krishna is also telling something that is which is totally impractical or something out of the air. He's saying this is very practical. Yes, what you're saying is correct. To control the mind is an impossible thing, but one has to practice. And then how to practice? What are the various practical means to achieve this? Krishna elaborates, and that's where I said in the initial, the 7 to 9 chapter is the very practical and very effective ways to control the mind, because bhakti yoga in essential what it is also wherein we are given chances, avenues to engage our senses in the service of the Lord, thereby regulating and controlling our mind and directing it towards the ultimate goal of all spiritual practices. Essentially, it's all about, if you see Bhagavad Gita in one sense, there are many ways we can understand Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is all about mind control. What are the practical ways to do mind control? So now that is over, but Krishna explained to him that one has to, anyway, there's no option, you have to practice. So Krishna gave his conclusion. Now Arjuna is like thinking, okay, you said mind control, you have to means, which basically means one has to become yogi, means he has to give up all materialistic desires. Even he has to give up all materialistic desires, and he has to live a life of celibacy or whatever Krishna is told. Now what if the yogi who has done all of this is not able to attain the success what Krishna explains in, I think it's he explains in 6.272, like 6 point around 32, you can take, yeah, 6.32 he explains. So Krishna speaks very high her words. You can experience transcendental happiness, you can realize the qualitative identity with the supreme Brahman and all. So so basically Arjuna is taking the position on our behalf and saying, fine Krishna, you told all of that, but what if someone like who has taken up to this process and has not achieved that perfection whatever you have explained in that verses, what will happen to him? So this fellow has given up everything. He has lived such an austere life. He has neither enjoyed material comforts, neither enjoyed family comforts, nothing. And now whatever you promised, said, you said that if you do this he will achieve happiness. He has not even achieved that. Why he has not achieved? In the 6.37, so because there are so many slokas, I will not go through a purpose. I'll just read the Sanskrit because the Sanskrit is important. There's the verses spoken by the devotee and the Lord himself, and then the translation, and then the whatever understanding I had received by reading and hearing to senior devotees, I'll share. So Krishna, Arjuna says, Arjuna vacha ayati shraddhayopeto yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kim gatim Krishna gachati. So here the word Arjuna uses is yoga chalita manasaha. So again, see the word manasa comes. So who has deviated from a yogic mindset. So initially, yeah, maybe he had a desire, good desire. He had some nice devotee met him, told him about the body soul concept. He got attracted to this concept. He started practicing, but then he got deviated, and that's a big topic actually for us to deviate. In fact, for me, like a person who is struggling to control mind and trying to swim across the ocean of current of strong current of Maya, to talk about this is actually like a mountain, some rat trying to dig a hole in a mountain, or like to bring down a mountain. But I'll attempt based on the strength of Guru and the Guru Parampara. So here, Arjuna gives the important clue for us. Why does one deviate from the intended goal? So we can just see in our cases also. We have been introduced to Krishna consciousness. We have a good understanding of the philosophy. We have good sadhu sangha. We have everything. But that does mean success is guaranteed? No, because this manasa and Prabhupada in this purport, we would have read this many times. The moment we take up to Krishna consciousness, it's like we are declaring a war against Maya. And Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, and of course, it's coming up in the 7th chapter, Mama Maya Duratya. It's actually an energy of Krishna itself. So, how can we, who are a marginal energy, can overcome or surmount the divine energy of Krishna? Actually, it is an impossible proposition. So if anyone were told that you have to fight against an opponent, he is like multiple times powerful than you, and there are no chances. But if we still think we can go and win, it's actually kind of a preposterous or like a ridiculous or like a foolish thing. But that is where Krishna, there will be hope for us in the first upcoming chapters. And that is where I think the Krishna and Arjuna's conversation, why it is helpful for us practicing sadhakas, because they kind of bring forth these pitfalls in any other processes other than bhakti yoga. What are the major pitfalls? Because this yogic practice, whatever we discuss, it's basically a yogic process, trying in a yogi trying to perform sadhana on his own strength. So he is going to the secluded place, he's trying to control his mind, he's trying to focus, and just like the example Prabhupada is given, when we are taking up to these practices, the Maya, we are trying to swim against the current of the Maya. Like my relatives are in Hyderabad, so last 1 month, a week, it's been very troublesome for them. There's like plenty of flooding that's going around in Hyderabad. So they were saying that it's actually Hyderabad. That's very funny. Hyderabad is like the farthest city, major city in India, which is farthest from any water body, but it is getting flooded like crazy, like you would have seen in Hollywood movies. And then things are like just floating around, cars, bikes, buffaloes are just, it's just rainwater. And then think about the strong current of Maya. So do we think, do we, I mean, just we can contemplate, uh, do we stand any chance to swim against the current? So that is the point that Arjuna wants to highlight, and for us to ponder, for anyone to even think that, okay, I will try to control mind, or I will perform a dhyana yoga. So yoga chalita manasa, who is deviated. So that point is basically being brought about in this. And the other point that we can, for us to discuss is to kind of contemplate upon is, Prabhupada says, consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. So it's given, I mean, already the enemy is very powerful, and on top of that, the enemy is making, the more we punch, the more the counter punch, much stronger is the counter punch. And it's like allurements, you can see, like I'm a little bit from a design background, and then in general we see, actually the way this industry, or like this whole world, today's world is there, any productivity, any product you see, it is made in such a way that it is your senses, they design the product in such a way that it captures your senses. So it's actually again another futile attempt to say that I will try to conquer Maya. So our understanding, or our outlook should never be that we will try to conquer Maya. We should be that we should try to take shelter of the Guru, take shelter of the holy name. So practically, you see any, like for example, this IM laptop or anything, whenever we go out, any product, car, mobile, they are designed in such a way that it captures our senses. So that's called emotional design. They try to capture, it's like they see what type of colors, what type of shades, shapes, how to use it so that it attracts. So we are attracted by these tiny things. So now what about Prabhupada is saying that she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. So that is the context. Next what in 6.38, we'll go to 6.38. Kachino bhaya vibhrashtas chinnabhram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapati. So again, after putting forward his point that okay, maybe I didn't read the translation earlier. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?" So now the translation for 6.38 is, O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a raven cloud with no position in any sphere? So basically, Arjuna is saying what happens? He becomes na gharka na ghatka. So he has spent so much time in this practices. He is neither enjoyed, like we discussed earlier. Now, what is his position? So we see that because actually in this case it's very important to understand that when one takes up to Krishna consciousness or any other spiritual practices, generally there is opposition from within the family or extended family, or like we also experience, we take up Krishna consciousness, we face a lot of hardships in work or somewhere something otherwise. And also sometimes we are considered we are not doing prescribed duties, like if there are someone from a Brahmin family, they have to do certain things like karma kandic rituals, or some maybe some families might have some kula devata, they would have some ritualistic performances that their family would have been doing from generations, or they would have some obligations, some sacrificial obligations. So generally we these transcendentalists avoid that. So naturally they, from a Vedic perspective, they are bound to occur some reactions, because it is said that there are the moment we are born, we are indebted to five types. There are five types of debts we are born into. Like we are indebted to devas, deva rishis, the sages, bhutapta. Bhutapta meanings living near and dear ones. Naruna general people in the society, and Pitrunam, our forefathers. How we are indebted? See, Devas we have read in third chapter, because demigods are the order, I mean the administrative department's head. So they provide us various supplies for our the well-being. So we are indebted to them, like rain, water, various minerals, anything that we need, it is they are given by the demigods. So we are indebted to them. So and that's why Krishna says paraspara bhavyantam. One should, when he's taking from the demigods, he should offer back to the demigod in terms of sacrifice. Otherwise, he is just eating sin. We have read that in third chapter. Then rishis, the sages, we are indebted to them because they have given so many cultural, moral codes, so many Vedas, so many ways to perform purificatory processes, karma kandik, so many other things, gnana, upasana, and so many other things the rishis have given us. The bhutapta, of course, without, do you think without our near and dear ones, we would have evolved into such finer individuals? And we have been taken care well, so we are now able to comfortably read the scriptures and discuss even in this crisis situations. They have given us, like, it also includes our parents. Nirnam, society in general. See, we may not directly see that, okay, how that society in general is indebted to, but maybe somewhere someone would have built a school, which was donated or sponsored by some rich person, or some contributions were given, and we would have studied in that school. So like that, that is just one example. Like that, there may be several ways we will be indebted to general people in general. And Pitrunam, our forefathers, for giving us this body and all. So you can see it's actually a complex, I would say, intricate net of debt. We may think debt means only our EMIs, but these are all things that we are born into, which we don't know what is the EMI, what is, how much is the principal, how much is the interest we have to pay, but it is all being calculated, and the proof is, we'll read in the next two verses. So when one undergoes all of these, when is actually one person takes up to spiritual life, he naturally does not have a time to do all of this, right? And he's not inclined to do, and he's more interested. He realizes the importance of human form of life, the short span that human form we have, and all of this. Naturally he's not inclined to do all of this. So then he's actually risking the reactions, because not only from Vedic perspective, the family members are also a little bit offended. So those things he's also risking. So these are some of the things that I've heard and read. Like, he's risking in terms of the reactions that are awaiting to fall upon him. So Arjuna basically is asking to Krishna, oh, he'll not be here, because if a materialistic person, let's say he's a proper karma kandi, he'd be doing according to religious rituals. He'll be offering some, like Pitrupaksha happened recently. He would be doing some Pitrupaksha, whatever has to be done. He'll be doing all that things that are at least supposed to be done as per the textbook, whatever we say, like per the Veda textbook methods. He will ensure, he may not have faith, or he may not do it out of devotion or whatever, but he'll try to do it, so that he's little fearful what will happen if I don't do. At least that mentality is there. So now in 6.3 now, Arjuna is now just like in 2.1, where he says Madhusudana, he uses the word Madhusudana, and Prabhupada in that purport says Madhusudana means the killer of demons, and Prabhupada equates the doubts to demons. So we should always kill any doubts, because I've heard recently that there are two major impediments that are the biggest impediments in our spiritual progress: doubt and fear. Because if we have doubt, we'll not have too much faith on scriptures. I will be thinking, okay, okay, they are saying this, so that this Purushottam was so powerful, Kartik month is so powerful. Okay, fine, but or maybe we might be thinking, really, the spiritual world, okay, is like that. Is it so happy? So the more doubts we have, we should get it cleared. Otherwise, our faith will not evolve, and our faith will not grow to an extent where we can take complete shelter of the Lord. And fear, on the other hand, if we have more fear, we are attached to material things. Like we know the entire insurance industry runs on the concept of fear. So that's why this doubt he has. This is my doubt. I'll read the verse. Etan me samsayam Krishna chetum arhasi asheshatah त्वद् अन्यः संशयस् यस् यस्यास्या चेता nahi upapadyate. So this is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So in the purport, Prabhupada actually takes an opportunity to say that it's actually Krishna who can clarify any doubts because he's the perfect knower of past, present, and future. And Krishna, and also it is Prabhupada refers to that verse where Krishna in that second chapter tells about the living entity, that never was there a time when the living entity didn't exist. Never will there be a time. So taking that into consideration, Prabhupada says Arjuna is asking now because you are the only one who can destroy my doubts. So actually, if you have any doubts, who can destroy our doubts? Who is in perfect knowledge, right? So when who is in perfect knowledge, who knows everything, and who is the best or better than Krishna, who knows everything. So that is the context, and then the 40 to 45 is Krishna's response. So we'll look into this. So in Krishna as says Sri, let me see if I have any points to cover in this now. Okay, no. So 6.40 Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So, Krishna, what Krishna is saying is he's immediately assuring, like we have seen in several instances, whenever Arjuna asks any doubt, there's a very assuring statement and with a lot of command and conviction, of course. It Krishna, the Supreme Personality, is saying. So here, his point is Krishna is putting forward. So Arjuna has put his arguments. So a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So Prabhupada says in the purport, actually he quotes a Bhagavatam verse. He says and uses he quotes that verse to say that if someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. So this is essentially we have heard several times, like you may have so many zeros, but unless there is a one before that zero, it becomes a million or a billion or a trillion. Otherwise, it stays zero. So the point here is any activity that is not uh, a little spiritual in the sense that that is not helpful in elevating our consciousness, because here Krishna is not completely talking about spiritual. The point here is anything that doesn't elevate our consciousness spiritually is of actually a degrading or of no value. um, and Prabhupada talks about the point of the auspicious activities, and the auspicious activities we see. So then I want to point out this, like even in Purushottam month, of course, during this time it was all lockdown. That's why devotees are very eager to take out and to reach out to as many new souls as possible, and give them an opportunity to offer lamps, like in Purushottam month that just recently concluded, or upcoming Damodar month. Or devotees further go and try to engage general people in some kind of Krishna conscious activities. And that's how we have seen, like the early days in ISKCON, how Prabhupada used to engage, and we have also seen how um, I forgot the Prabhu's name who introduced Jay Patak Maharaj, Jayanand Prabhu, Jayanand Prabhu, how they have engaged devotees. So the point there is the concept, and that's how many of our devotees, especially I see that a lot, that spirit in Surabhi Kunj, that Bhakti Center, that there is an very much intense desire amongst the devotees to engage other people in service of the Lord, and that we see that mood in especially in Ratha Yatra, when the Lord Ratha is rolled out, we try to invite as many peoples of general public to pull out the card, because all of these activities have so much of benefits mentioned, that these benefits are not like original benefits. There is like a permanent stamp on our spiritual body, or like I would say subtle body, stamped that okay, this person has done this, so it goes into your that ledger or blockchain ledger, whatever way we can talk in terms of the modern technology. It is very secure, and it goes everywhere with us. That is how, that is the reason Krishna is stressing the point that any such auspicious activity never whoever does engaged in those auspicious activities does not meet with destruction. And one other word he uses, one does who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. And in general society, we also see do good, be good, do good is also said. It is yeah, we know that that alone is not enough, but at least if one starts to do good, then the inclination is that they will be at least brought to the platform of sattva guna, wherein they will be more conducive to more real kalyanakrit. The word kalyanakrit, the real auspicious activities, they'll be more um, open to take up to the real auspicious activities. And we see that generally in any religion, or the general welfare activities are recommended. But we know that Krishna consciousness is supremely auspicious. Actually, if you see just one point, that's why India, and Prabhupada always says this, says or emphasizes this, that God-centered life is always better than the so-called civilized gods and godless societies. See, actually, how the Britishers kind of came here. When they came here, they saw in India there was so much prosperity. Though, and at that time when the Britishers came, they practically, I mean, from this mundane perspective, they were a little advanced missionary, they had advanced missionary. But we were like very what do you say, very it's not primitive, but very eco-friendly, or very much in line with the nature. We were using techniques, and our traditions were very much in line with the nation, with the nature. So the point there was, we were very much full of god-centered people. In India were living god-centered life, so naturally there was auspiciousness and there was prosperity. So we can see that even in modern context, how this words can be understood. So we'll go further. Prabhupada actually in this purport explains the various types of auspicious activities, which is what I explained in a different way. There is general auspicious activities, spiritually auspicious activities, um, and spiritually like unknown. Like I might offer a lamp, and then knowingly doing spiritual activities. So three levels of auspicious activities. Krishna explains. Sorry, Prabhupada explains in the purport. We'll go to the 41st. So now Krishna explains what will happen. So there are two types of unsuccessful yogis. One who has just performed yogi for a small amount of time, and one who has really performed for a longer period. For a small amount of time, we can consider like people who have done little practice. Maybe their family members would have been devotees, they would be just doing, or they had a genuine desire, but that's it, the desire never really fructified into a stronger sadhana. But and the yogi of a longer duration is someone who has practiced, or maybe it could be also a devotee. We'll see how it could also be a devotee. Devotee who could have practiced, but unfortunately they have not attained. uh, I mean, from a Munday perspective, we should understand, when we say not attained, meaning they have not attained the consciousness. So what will happen? So here we can also see, actually this verse doesn't talk about yogis as, I mean, devotees as such, but we can understand how it can apply to the devotees also. So I'll read the next two verses together, and then I will share whatever I have read and heard. Prapya punya kritam lokan usitva शाश्वती समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टो अभिजायते अथवा योगिनाम् एव कुले भवति धीमताम् एताद्धि दुर्लभं तरं लोके जन्म ईदृशम्. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. The second verse, or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. So, as we explained, there are two destinations given. One is for an unsuccessful yogi who has done fallen after very little progress, and the other one who has fallen after long years of practice. So Prabhupada always used to say, when he in his time he used to say, "So whom do you think is the most pious person?" He would say Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth, because unless she was most pious, she would not have been born into this aristocratic family. So this is one such proof. And so, what is the difference between the birth mentioned in 6.41, 6.42, and normal? Some Karmikandi person would be doing also auspicious activities. So, what is the difference? Actually, the difference is in both the cases. Prabhupada, Krishna says in the first case, who has fallen down, who has not elevated his consciousness, or whose practice was not much serious or not sincere, he because he has done these activities. See, in one sense we can also understand how Krishna is looking at every opportunity to allure conditioned souls to take up to spiritual practice. He's giving like so many concessions. Even if you do some practice, you fall down, see what is in store for us. I mean, for us meaning it's like for general people in person, for yogi. Of course, that is what maybe Krishna has made that me utter that word. It could be that by reading this, sometimes we could fall prey to these assurances and become complacent. But the point here is, so even such a person who has not failure, actually in material world, if you didn't fail an exam, you are a failure. I mean, if you didn't pass an exam, you are a failure. But see here, there are also Krishna is making distinctions in failures. If you will still get this credit, if you fail this much, you will still get this credit. So we just need to understand Krishna's genuine, what you say, suhridam sarvabhutanam, like better to use that word, how much kind and how much serious he is in our coming back to him, his kindness, his mercy, as his merciful nature, so that he is giving us these much opportunities to again. So the idea is, the person who has fallen after such small practice, he's still getting a chance to go to heavenly planets. He's enjoying there. But see, now the point I made earlier, right? What is the difference between these two births and a karmakandi who does various pious activities to go to Swarga? He also is going to Sarga, so the planets of the Swargaloka, and this fellow is also going. The yogi is also going. But after enjoying this, this yogi is given a birth in a family of righteous people. Righteous people means pious people, or into a family of rich aristocracy. But the same is not said of a person, a karma kandi, who has gone to Swarga. So there itself you can see, like even a small neha bikraman also, whatever little you have done, there is no loss or diminution. What loss is there? He's just done something. See, his future is guaranteed. Future to future is also guaranteed. And one more other thing, we can also see that both these verses, human form of life is guaranteed. But for the person who has done karma kandi, there is nowhere written, after practicing, after enjoying in heavenly planets, there is nowhere we can see, at least that I have read or I have heard, that a human form of life is guaranteed. And getting a human form of life, we have we have read so many times, right? In this, I will also quote this verse. There are 8.4 million species of life, and to get human form of life is durlabham manisham janmam. And that's why Prahlad Maharaj says that having obtained this rare human form of life, we should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning itself. And in Padma Purana, there is this the description of 8.4 million species, right? Jalaja zero point 0.9 Stavra, like that. So human, there are 4.4 million species of human lives. So what is assured? What is being assured for a person who is successful after small practice, many years of enjoyment into pious living entity, and born into a born into a righteous people. So it could be like Prabhupada is giving the word, using the word Brahmana Vaishnava. So maybe they are not purely into spirituality, that family, but they are very much pious, they are God following, and probably they might be some endeavoring, some trying to endeavor on the path of spirituality. And then when one gets a birth, naturally he will, unless again there is some deviation, he will naturally take up those qualities, acquire those qualities. And if some devotee, Hare Krishna devotee, meets him, then that's it, he will get the supremely auspicious benefit. So, or he is born into a rich aristocratic family, like nowadays of course this aristocracy does not hold good, but in we see in Bhagavatam and how the aristocrats like Sadhu, Rajarishi, they were like the kings were supposed to be saintly kings. So naturally they had good counsel of these ministers who will advise him what to do, what not to do. After your 50 years or after retirement, go and do this. So like that, he'll get good counsel. Now for the second person who has done long practice, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists. So he here for him it is assured, and for him there is no what you say, there is no enjoyment, because this person has actually done a lot of practice. And actually we are running out of time, there is so much to talk about why this person would fall down. But we see that like Prabhupada, like in this case what we see is the transcendentalist who has done a longer practice, for him the next birth is into a family of transcendentalists. Prabhupada uses the example of his own and also Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So these are the type of births that person would get. And Krishna says such a birth is very rare. Durlabhataram. Not only human life is very rare, but out of this type of life is very rare. So we'll go further given the time constraint. Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labhate paurva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kuru nandana. On taking such a birth, he revised the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. So here, Prabhupada gives the example of Jada Bharat. So I'll just briefly quote that example. We know the example with this pastime of King Bharat from Bhagavatam. So King Bharat, after whom this planet Earth was came to be known as Bharatvarsha, he left his princely kingdom and then left for performing sadhana. But due to some circumstances, actually the devotees who generally give the purport, because he tried to do sadhana without any association. He tried to do sadhana in solitude. So he, in due course of time, he got attached to a deer, and because he was thinking, and the deer later on leaves him, and the later part of the life he just keeps on thinking about the deer, and he gets a body of a deer in the next life. But though he gets that body of a deer, he remembers his previous life, and then he ensures this time there is no such accident that happens. So he always roams around the cottages of the sages, and then he gets another body. So Jada Bharat, and therein we understand how Jada Bharat was a transcendentalist, his interactions with King Rahugana, and how, what type of philosophy he speaks. So that's an example that Prabhupada is quoting, and the scriptures are giving how a person who has taken up to consciousness, but these allurements, these Maya allurements. So for him, it is attachment to a deer, lack of association. So we can just keep those points in mind. I'll see, maybe I'll take a little 5 minutes more than six to complete those points also. And then for going further, 6.44, Purva Bhyasena Tenaiva Hriyate hi avashopi saha Jignasur Abhiyogasya Sabdha Brahmati Vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So it's continuation of the previous verse. So this person, by the divine consciousness of his previous life, so we understand that now Krishna is talking mainly about that person who has like has a very little to moderate to advanced, I wouldn't say advanced, moderately developed divine consciousness. He had a moderately developed divine consciousness, but he kind of fell down due to unfortunate circumstances. So it is still being referred to him because he had that consciousness. He's not attracted to any ritualistic principles. Actually, I recently also came across this incident. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, in his Journey Home book, writes about one Ghanasham Dhyas Baba. When he was in his search for spiritual truth, when he was in Vrindavan, he spent some time with this devotee called this Vrindavan Vijayavasi, Ghanasham Das Baba. So it was said that this Ghanasham Das Baba was actually the son of some princely, from royal people from Rajasthan. So once they happened to come to Vrindavan, maybe for some spiritual tour or something, so he was so attracted by Vrindavan that by the time has come for them to leave Vrindavan, he said, "I'm not coming back with you." Then he just stayed back, and then the parents tried to persuade him so much, but no, he was never going to stand. Never going to go back. He stayed back in Vrindavan like a mendicant. He was a very wealthy person. He used to, and it was said that, as I was hearing from some senior god brother, that he used to go to the banks of the Yamuna river. He used to write Radhe, Radhe, Radhe on those banks. And while writing, one day his fingers touched upon what was like a mukut crown of something. So then he dug, and then he found the deities of Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha. So the point there is like this person was born into a very rich aristocratic pious family, and then there is, without any, he revised the previous consciousness without much effect, automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles. So he was just like that attracted, and he completed, maybe he would all, I mean, we can't speculate, but just to be an example, taken as an example, it could be that there was something that he couldn't have, so he would have not have been successful, so he's just continuing that whatever journey he had started in the previous life. So like that we see even in Prabhupada's case, right? Of course, some of the devotees, some from Prabhupada disciples, like they are said to be the devotees in Gaur Leela, but most of the other devotees, they just come, they just have one discussion, and then just they become devotees. All of Prabhupada's early disciples, and then who are like very very senior devotees in ISKCON, Prabhupada disciples, more majority of them have the same story. They would be thinking of something, and then they get a book, they get attracted, and then the next thing we hear them is that they entered that they started living in the temple. In 1 year they would take initiation, and 2 years they would take sannyas. So it is not possible, right, without this understanding. So going further, so in the purports, whatever Prabhupada made those points in the purports, I'm just explaining with these examples. In 6.45, the concluding section for this verse, Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So the point in the purport Prabhupada mentions, Prabhupada brings out that point twice: the material contaminations, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice. So it's not like an easy process, right? For an yogi, even for an unsuccessful yogi, he has to go through many, many births. And we see further coming in 7th chapter also, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samatma Sudharlabha Bahunam Janmanamante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyati. So Bahunam. So this Bahunam verse is given. And for us, we don't know, maybe we are also in those category, or we could be the category where we are just being given the mercy. but I think, at least for myself, I would think that I would have been in this category. So we are now got this chance after many births to understand, and then to take up, not understand, because understanding would have been there in other births also, but this taking up to the process of bhakti yoga, which Prabhupada quotes, is the most successful, easiest, and a direct method. And now this is where actually Krishna is trying to steer the whole discussion. Now he slowly, because his ultimate hidden goal, hidden agenda is to establish bhakti yoga and create a platform so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can come, right? So and then demonstrate this. So now he's steering that, and the next two verses he kind of because whole point is, how do you control mind, and what are the pitfalls in controlling mind on yourself, and then what is the easiest way. If you try to control your mind on your own, this is what is going to happen. But if you try to control the mind, because the seventh chapter talks about yogam yunjam madasraya, by hearing about me, how you can control. Now he's opening the secrets of devotional service, how one can control the mind by focusing the mind on Krishna, by hearing shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam, all those things. Of course Bhagavatam explains, but he's Krishna is now giving that hint, and he's the biggest open secrets are going to be revealed in the next seven chapters. So that is where we are very at a crucial juncture, and this is where it is leading us to that these contaminations have to be washed away. Unless these contaminations are washed, we cannot approach Krishna, and then that cycle continues for years, for years, births and births. But of course, we saw that process, right? That births and births, somehow it is arranged in such a way that if that person is sincere, because the sincere word is also used, if that person is sincere, he will take up to Krishna consciousness. So I have few other points, but I will just quickly touch upon this, why this causes of yoga brashta happens. So I'll not go into details, I'll just few points I've written down. And One is for impersonalism, who is trying to, because this yogi here is more or less, it's like a impersonalist yogi, because he's not a devotee yogi, because the devotee yogi is more explained in the next verses. And of course the destination, we know that verse, right? My devotee never perishes. How Krishna tesham satata yuktanam, all those beautiful jewel verses are going to come up in the next six sections, and that establishes how Krishna takes care of the transcendentalist who is engaged in bhakti yoga. So here one has to do it all on his own. All the fight, all the struggle, they have to swimming against the current. Krishna, the yogi has to do. So for an impersonalist, it could be because the fall down, the yoga brashta can happen due to dissatisfaction. We know that impersonalism, how much can one just focus on something that is non-existence, right? Even if they have achieved and gone to Brahmajyoti, Prabhupada says at some point they'll come down and engage in welfare activities. And for devotees, this yoga brashta that I could hear and understand happens due to offenses, because offenses are the biggest. And I'll just quickly summarize that analogy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives of Bhakti Lata bridge. So the seed of devotion is sprouted in our heart, so it has to be watered properly. And when the watering, regular watering happens through the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, it grows, that stages atha shradu sangha ruchi, that is through those stages this creeper grows. But unless one is careful against the mad elephants, which are basically the offenses are like of course the Vaishnava aparadha is topmost, but there are also jiva aparadha, seva aparadha, nama aparadha. Of course these are not in the exact order. If exact order, it could be Vaishnava, nama, seva aparadha. Seva aparadha means we may be doing deity services, but we may be little negligent or not doing in proper. So those are also offense. Those all things somehow pull us back. So these offenses we have to be very careful, because these offenses are yoga bharashta in case of a devotee. Of course the maya allurement is anyway there. We know the stories of Vishwamitra Muni, how he fell down from that his transcendental position of meditating, Menaka coming, and then Saubhari Muni, how he was such a great sage, but he was doing tapasya in underwater, and then he saw two fishes engaged in sensual pleasure. He falls down, he develops sensual desires and marries 50 wives, and then later on regrets. But on the other hand, we see Haridas Thakur and his interactions with that prostitute, and that Maya Devi comes and tries to allure and seduce him. But in fact, in both the cases, they get transformed. So we see how this thing happened. Of course, the Haridas Thakur example is to exemplify the holy name and all. But that's how when one is taken fully shelter of the holy name, these things, there won't be any yoga brashta for us. And then, yeah, other way of yoga brashta is also, we may be doing service, but even in service we could be overcome by proud, like I am doing this service more better than that devotee. Oh, what that devotee is doing, I may ask him to do, he is doing. I am empowering, basically the doership mentality. Or envy, that devotee is doing more, somehow I have to not in the spirit of cooperation, but in the spirit of trying to hamper. So these type of things can also come up, and there are many examples in the Shastras. Of course, my limited spiritual knowledge can't immediately think of, but once we read, there could be many. But these we should be very careful. So, and of course, in 3.34, Prabhupada also talks about these rules and regulations that we are following, right? In terms of trying to control the senses, like four regulative principles, or eating prasad or anything. So these can also be lead us to go astray. It's like that we may think, oh, I'm eating prasad, but anything unregulated can also lead us to go astray. Prabhupada said, I heard once Chandramauli Maharaj, this from Chandramauli Maharaj, Prabhupada said, even if you have a desire to eat rasgulla, you have to take birth again. So it's like that. So even that rasgulla, or so I think it was gulab jamun, I think. So that gulab jamun could be a prasadam gulab jamun still. So for us, in 2 minutes, I'll conclude. So for us, one 3S 3S formula we can think of is how to be not fall prey to this yoga brashta, chalita manasa, by this not come under the influence of the mind. Is we can take shelter of a spiritual master using 3S. One is six principles of surrender. Krishna, that Prabhupada mentions in that 18th chapter, that when Sarvadharman Parityajya. Of course, for all of us, our spiritual master is the representative of Krishna. So we can imbibe the six principles of surrender to take his shelter. Shelter meaning trying to sincerely seek his protection from Maya, with the understanding that we said that Maya will continuously bombarding and will try to rip us away from our position. And then sincerity. Sincerity means the integrity with which we are doing sadhana. We may try to show off when we are in the association of devotees. This is actually, all of this is what I heard. I'm doing a cut copy paste job, and I'm talking way beyond my what I do. So I humbly request all of you to definitely pray for me, so that whatever I speak, I implement. So one devotee was saying, the sincerity means integrity. Whatever we do when we are alone determines how sincere we are. And seriousness. Actually, I heard one small story, but I think we are short of time. I don't know, Gaurav Prabhu, how is it? 2 minutes can I take, or is it too late?
Prabhuji, you can take it, Prabhuji.
Okay, just so this to illustrate the point of seriousness. Again, I heard this from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. So he was saying, once he was on the banks of Ganga. So he was sitting on the banks of Ganga. There was one fish floating, and suddenly there was one hawk. Actually, he didn't see the fish. First, there was one hawk flying around on top of it, and suddenly it came so close to him, and it just jumped. I mean, dived into the water, and then there was a huge commotion in the water, and suddenly the hawk came out with a big fish in the claws. So Radhanath Maharaj was giving the two lessons, like he's saying, the fish was going about like every day, nicely roaming around with his family and friends, never knowing that the fate of hawk would come in that form and just rip it apart from its reality, and just I mean, basically it's like a tremendous what do you say, you can say an unexpected event that's happening, and it kind of meets with death. So he says, it's, if you can take an analogy, for a yogi, procrastination is the biggest danger, is the biggest enemy. We may go around doing our regular duties, unless we are like really serious and in taking up to this process, in the association, the chanting, the reading, we could also be, some calamity can come and take us away from the path of devotion. And then another learning he says about from this is that uh, if we are not deep enough, if the fish would have been swimming deep in the water, the hawk could not have pulled it out of the water. So unless we are deep, we go deep, we take sincere shelter of holy name and devotees association, we will also be pulled out. And like how Arjuna is saying, yoga, the unsuccessful yogi, we could also become unsuccessful yogi. uh, okay, I think that's it. So in conclusion, we saw the various means in which one can get fall down, and how the path of dhyana yoga, the yogi who tries to achieve or endeavor everything on his own, is very dangerous. But that's why bhakti yoga is very the most suitable path, and it's because it's the most direct, and also it's like there is supreme assurance from the Lord. There is always the backing of the Lord, who's like, I have your back kind of assurance. So with that, I seek forgiveness if I have spoken anything out of my realization, or maybe if I stated anything wrong. Please forgive me, and definitely pray for me, because all of this I have spoken is way beyond my realization. I have just heard and read from various sources, and just shared because I've given a chance to speak. And teaching is the best form of learning. So I hope I'll be able to imbibe certain of these principles and facts, and take it seriously in my spiritual sadhana as well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions? I'll try to answer. If not, I think I'll seek the senior devotees here to answer the questions. Any questions or any comments or anything you want to share? Please share.
So Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Saravana.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes.
Prabhu, one question, like with respect to this insurance thing, example you gave, no, Prabhu. So
Mm-hmm.
like, so how do devotees take this kind of things like insurance or whatever we do? Like say for example, even building a house,
Mm-hmm.
we will have some kind of some it's about, you can consider it two ways. One is like a insecurity, one is like a necessity or something like that. So how do we understand this, Prabhu?
Yeah. Good question, and I think you have been merciful to me in answering the question itself, because I don't know how to answer. As you rightly said, I think we have to do certain things. There is, as you said, one is insecurity and one necessity. The point there is, there is a fear factor in even the point I mentioned there, and I think the Prabhuji from whom I have heard is this fear factor. What will happen is, we in that fear factor, when we are overcome by fear, that is where our depth of spiritual practice comes to the fore. Whether we take shelter, or are we attached to the material things, or are we attached to Krishna? I mean, so that is the whole point there, in principle. But to practicality, I think we need to consider whatever is practically feasible, like for example car insurance or even health insurance. These days I think those are much more important than maybe paying our bills, some of our regular bills on time. So I think those things need to be taken care given the time, place and circumstance. But I think the guiding principle is we should not go overboard in taking different types of insurance. I think even in insurance there are so many insurances. I think we just need to, definitely we need to take a life insurance. I don't know home about home insurance, but I've seen that now happening in Hyderabad. Actually, my sister's place, luckily by Krishna's grace, it happened twice in one week. That kind of flooding you would see in Hollywood movies. So there's like so much of flooding that happened in two houses, 6 feet houses. We don't know if we'll be presented with that kind of situation, but the way that this year is going, we don't know. At least maybe we have to do ensure things that which are of value to us, which could impact our consciousness. I mean, which basically if we lose something, then we may kind of be very disturbed in our Krishna consciousness. If we have to evaluate those and then take it accordingly. So I think it's a matter of personal discretion. But the point there is not becoming overboard, overdoing the insurance aspect.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hari Krishna Prabhuji, yes.
I have one question. With respect to the devotion and me being introduced to Krishna conscious, it's been 3 years now.
Okay.
I am 35 years old now. I mean, just in the context of whatever we have discussed today, so I just wanted to understand if I want to self reflect myself, uh, why did I start so late? That is one thing which I wanted to understand. And the other piece is we fortunately have my cousin association who have been initiated like 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was one association which just brought us into ourselves, like, myself and our family also, into the Krishna conscious now. Uh, but does that mean that we had some consciousness before in the previous janmas? That's number one. And number two, uh, will will the end or the conclusion will be in this janma or maybe towards that, like in the future janmas?
Yeah. Yes. So the first part is actually, see, what I've heard, I will share, and I see some senior devotees also. Many senior devotees are here. I would like to seek their guidance in also completing this answer. Especially Krishna consciousness, getting introduced to Krishna consciousness is a causeless mercy. So trying to ascertain or to assign a cause is also very difficult, because this is, as we discussed, this is in relation to the Supreme Lord, who is supremely independent. So to put a logic around why he is doing like this is a little bit difficult, especially in the case of why did I get introduced to so late, or why did I get introduced to now. One thing that I've heard from my seniors, that got introduced, they said it's just our bhakti is due. It's like your even in our karmic cases, like in a karmi dealings, sometimes we get a job, or we are looking for something, maybe some like going to US or something, trying to get a visa, or something that we are eagerly waiting for. The stars have to get aligned, and then the actual those fructify, the results of our past activities have to fructify for us to get that opportunity. So like that, devotees give the example of that silo of rice, wherein whatever pious or sinful activity we do, that reaction gets accumulated in that rice silo. Silo means that cylindrical thing. So whatever you take out from the bottom is whatever you have done in the past. So in that sequence, whatever you have done, you get. So we can try to maybe make an analogy in that way, that based on the activities that you have done, this was possibly the time when you had to get it, and not maybe before that. So that is could be one reason. And then the coming to the aspect of, I think, what was the second one, will I be successful or something, or how many lifetime it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in Bhagavatam, it says that it gives an example of Khatvanga Maharaj, who became Krishna consciousness in a moment. So, Prabhupada says, to become Krishna consciousness, it is a momentary thing. It takes a moment. What is Krishna consciousness? Oh Krishna, I am not this body. I am the soul. I am an eternal servant. Nothing is for me. 100% is yours. So coming out of that bodily consciousness. Now, the biggest $1 million question is, who comes out of that consciousness the fastest? So that is up to us. So sadhaka, it's like, as I said, that word abhyasa yogena. So Krishna uses that word actually 2 or 3 times, I think. So it is, yes, even in bhakti yoga, Krishna, there's a lot of concession we saw in those verses, right? There's so, and further we'll see there are so many concessions that Krishna gives to us. But at the same time, and of course, yeah, I'll conclude this. At the same time, he expects us to make this endeavor, because coming in 2 weeks time we have this Damodar Leela, where Mother Yashoda binds little Damodar to a a wooden mortar, and actually she tries to tie him for the offense for the mistake he did. But however number of ropes she tries to bind him with, it falls 2 fingers short. So acharyas explain that as like one is Krishna's mercy and one is our endeavor. And I hope I'm correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So it's basically Krishna's mercy should be there and our endeavor should also be there. So if we take one step, Krishna takes 100 steps. So the bigger one steps we take, the bigger 100 steps Krishna takes, and that determines when we can achieve back. And actually the higher consciousness is for an advanced devotee, he doesn't even care whether he is going in this lifetime or next lifetime. Like the gopis of Vrindavan, who are considered the pinnacle of devotion to Lord Krishna, so they are ready to give the dust of their lotus feet to Krishna if that dust can relieve Krishna of his headache. So Narada Muni says this means that you can go to hell for millions and basically countless of lifetimes. They say we don't care. If this helps Krishna, pleases Krishna, we are ready to do that. So that is the highest level of, you say, the bar that we need to. That is where we need to reach. But of course, we are not there now. These are all basically from our mundane calculations. We calculate, okay, 2 plus 2 is 4, but actually in spiritual life 2 plus 2 could be 22 or 1, because actually it is true, because in Ishopanishad, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, devotees explain that as 1 minus 1 equal to 1 verse. So that happens in spiritual, that is basically spiritual calculations. So to put our material conception and put forward the material calculations is very little difficult to understand. But I would seek the seek some devotees like Ranchor Govind Prabhu. I also see Aparajit Govind Prabhu, Gaurav Prabhu, and Vasudev Pran Prabhu to please share if anything that you want to add. Sorry, I just saw those devotees' name and called them senior devotees, but please don't uh, take otherwise. So yeah, so that is my understanding. Hope I answered this question, those two questions first.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, yes.
So essentially, it's like we should not put our material calculation to this. So it's like Krishna can throw a bouncer. We might think if I do this, this will happen, but actually we may see someone who apparently might not be a great devotee from our perspective, who may not be good in giving good lectures or bhajans, or he may not have done book distribution, participated heavily in book distribution marathons. He may be awarded the most I mean, basically, this awarded and all, it's all like from a material perspective. But just to make an analogy, he may make a much faster advancement because Krishna consciousness is also internal. It's definitely the externals, meaning the sadhana has to be done, everything has to be done because we are Vaidhi sadhana bhaktas, I mean sadhana bhaktas. So we have to do the externals, but it's not just about the externals. It's also internal. So that's what I have heard and read. So
Okay. Thank you.
if any more questions, or if there aren't, so Gaurav Prabhu, 5 minutes kirtan, right? Or how is it? Time is over. What is the
No,
agenda?
Prabhuji, you can do for 10 minutes of Kirtan or 5 minutes, whatever. Prabhuji, can you explain when 3S was there? No? You told 3S principles.
So basically, it's like the whole point is the shelter of spiritual master. What is that? Because shelter means protection, and then seeking his protection. So we may say it verbally, but in actions, it's basically we can think of 3S, the 6 principles of surrender, which basically Krishna talks in the 18.66, right? That last, I'll just quickly read out. Yeah, this is Krishna is talking about the process of surrender. Prabhupada is mentioning the process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakta Vilas. So basically, what the point that I made here is, for us, spiritual master is a representative of Krishna. So we can consider these aspects. In this mood of surrender, we can take shelter of the spiritual master. And the other attributes are, so these are 6 points. I'll just read out. Anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam, rakshisyatiti vishwaso, goptrutve varanam tata, atma nikshepa karpanye sadvidha sharanagati. So essentially, these are basically thinking about how to take shelter of Krishna. So we can also think in terms of how the guru, we can approach the guru in the same way. And then the other two are basically the sincerity. The sincerity is basically the integrity in which with which we do our sadhana. And then the last one is seriousness.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'm not that good at kirtan. I'll try to do see how much I can do. So let's maybe prayerfully pray with what we have heard, because whatever devotional activities we do, we understand from these 6 verses is essentially the mind should be focused on the Lord. Otherwise, the devotional activities could also lead to sense gratification, and it could not lead us to the success. So let's focus our mind to hear the holy names of the Lord. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri 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 हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. On behalf of everyone, I want to thank His Grace Bhagavad Das Prabhuji for taking out her busy time to give the Bhagavad Gita nectar. And I also want to thank all the devotees who have assembled here for their Sunday evening classes. So thank you for joining. Thank you, Prabhuji, once again for the classes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Rancho Prabhu, you want to add something?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Prabhuji said
Prabhuji.
no. Yeah, we can end the session. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
for the class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.